I'm Brad Heckerman. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of American Eagle Instruments. Background is basically been in manufacturing most of my adult life since I was 27, and been in the dental industry with American Eagle for the last 18 years. American Eagle, the company was basically formed from what we refer to, Fred, as the refugees from the old American Dental that was bought out by a competitive company, and they ran the company for about a year at its facility in Missoula, Montana, and then they closed it down. And so that left about 100 people out of work, and that's how American Eagle Instruments was, the foundation for it was formed. We started with 17 individuals. I did not work at the old American Dental. I was brought in to provide capital and leadership, basically. We're primarily known as a hand instrument company. We got our start in basic hand instruments for perio, diagnostic, operative instruments. Since as we've grown, we've added other product lines, perio and magnetorestrictive tips and inserts type of thing, but primarily we're known as a periodontal instrument company. We've spent an awful lot of time and effort in research funding or surface engineering. So our XP line of products, which stands for Extreme Performance, is what XP stands for, and yeah, we're excited about those. The technology originated basically in the Soviet Union. It's kind of a Reader's Digest version is when the Soviet Union during Star Wars era could not compete with the United States on exotic materials, they knew that they were going to have to find a way to give basic materials exotic properties at a fraction of the cost. And so we ended up working with the inventor of that technology, partnered with them, and still partners with them. And so that's where XP technology came from. It's basically plasma engineering and servicing. Basically, the concept for XP instruments was to design an instrument that started with our curettes and scalers that wouldn't have to be sharpened in the dental office. Typically, the single biggest frustration that we'll hear from hygienists or dental professionals is the time that it takes to sharpen an instrument, to try to maintain the edge and the same bevel length on the instrument so it performs exactly the same every time was the basic challenge that they had. So the idea behind XP technology was to produce an instrument that they wouldn't have to sharpen.
I see.
And would last basically about the same amount of time as a standard instrument. The instruments are made thinner because they don't have to be sharpened. All manufacturers of hand instruments that have to be sharpened, ourselves included, will have to make the instrument as a thicker component. When you go subgingival, of course, that's a challenge, especially with tight gingiva. So the ability to have an instrument that is from the factory thinner and a finer instrument is a real advantage. Less trauma for the patient. The other thing, it makes it easier access, obviously, for the hygienists themselves or the dental professional doing the cleaning. And with XP technology, where the instrument stays sharp all the time throughout the whole procedure, the procedures are able to be done more quickly, more comfortably and conveniently, and what's even more important, because the instrument has a very, very high Rockwell hardness, much harder than calculus. It'll just plane the calculus away so you can cleave the quadrant more effectively. Well, we've designed the instruments first for the grip so that you can have a larger handle, a very light touch from the hygienist standpoint. So there obviously is an advantage there. For carpal tunnel syndrome, they have much better control of the instrument. But also when you have an instrument that is factory sharp and keeps that factory sharpness throughout its use, they have to hold the instrument much more, they can hold it much more gentle for the stroking, their planing strokes. Basically, hygienists are used to fracturing calculus as an instrument gets dull, and the fact that most instruments are made out of 448 and calculus is harder than the stainless steel instrument itself. So it'll dull quickly, and they're used to that. And they're used to, in heavy calculus cases, having to fracture the calculus away. With XP, we basically teach them and train them to just use a light planing stroke. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on the instrument anymore to fracture calculus. You can just plane it away. And in about 3 or 4 or 5 planing strokes, you'll cut through the heaviest of calculus. So yes, there is a technique change, but very slight. One of the things that was a little bit embarrassing for me, but it's a personal story, is I went for almost 2 years without flossing as we developed XP to see exactly how well the product would work when there was a heavy calculus patient. And when I went up to have the cleaning done by Kim, the very first thing that Kim said was, "Brad, you could hear the difference." But she had, obviously, when I've been that long without flossing, I have a tendency to build up pretty good calculus. She had scheduled 2 hours for the 4 quadrants. They were able to be done in 45 minutes. It was the fastest, simplest, easiest, and most comfortable cleaning I'd ever had. And it was at the end of that time that I realized that we had a product that I thought had a future. Yeah, they're a very comfortable product if you're the patient. Our XP product line, one of the things that I think is of interest to a lot of people is, as I mentioned, it came from Star Wars. So our company was contracted by the U.S. government and is still under contract by the U.S. government to provide advanced surface engineering for orthopedic and prosthetic parts. So XP technology that we're seeing in the dental industry right now it's really a technology in its infancy. It's going to continue to progress and get better. For the curettes and scalers that we're talking about today, the thought process is that the dental professional hasn't tried XP, they certainly should try it, not only for the comfort that it provides for themselves, the efficiency that it makes them basically a better hygienist, but if you do the math and you look at how much time and effort they spend sharpening instruments throughout instruments' life, it's a tremendous cost savings for them as well. Our experience has been, if you use XP instruments throughout a normal day, they either have the opportunity to treat as many patients and go home earlier, enjoy their families, their children, or outdoor activities if you're from Montana like we are, or they can schedule at least 1 more patient a day and use it as a revenue enhancer for their practice. XP technology is being introduced in piezo tips as well as magneto-restrictive, and obviously we're working on products that I can't divulge at this time for competitive reasons, obviously. But yes, XP technology and its applications in surface engineering we expect to bring across a broad range of dental products, and as I just mentioned, obviously medical products in the orthopedic industry. They were the very beginning.
Okay.
They were the start.
Okay.
But hopefully they won't be the end.